Ladies and gentlemen, the opening ceremony will begin shortly. Please kindly switch off or put your mobile phones on silent and please be seated. Thank you.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, Mohammad ibn Abdullah alladhi khassahu bis-syafa'ah amma ba'd. Yus'iduna an nurahiba bikum bi mu'tamar Ibn Khaldun ad-Duwali lil ulum at-tatbiqiyah wal ijtimaiyah lil am 2022. We are delighted to welcome you to the Ibn Khaldun International Conference on Applied on Social Sciences, IICASS-2022. It is an honor to me to introduce and welcome the guests at our table. The Honorable Mayor of Bogor, Mr. Bima Arya, the Chairman YPK Foundation, Dr. Didi Hilman, the Honorable Chief of Academic, Professor Dr. Mujahidin Hafiduddin, the Honorable Rector of Bogor Ibn Khaldun University, Professor Dr. Mujahidin, the Honorable President of Ibn Khaldun University, Turkey, Professor Dr. Atilla Arkan, the Honorable Vice Rectors, Deans, Chair of Quality Assurance Office, and Head of Institute for Research and Community Services, Bogor, Ibn Khaldun University, the Honorable Professor Madya Rosmawati Mohammad Rasit, Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia, the Honorable Professor Sri Irianti, M.Phil, Ph.D, BRIN Researchers Indonesia,
The Honorable Professor M. Azfal Wani, the Vice Chairman Institute of Objective Studies India, the Honorable Prof.Dr. Dawood Abdulmalek Yahya Al-Hidabi, Professor of Education IIUM-Malaysia, Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors UST-Yemen, the Honorable Dr. Seku Kausu Gasama, Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commissions of the Gambia, the Honorable Chairman of IICASS Conference 2022, Dr. Widyasari MPD, and also presenters and participants of IICASS Conference 2022. With the main theme of challenges and opportunities in achieving the SDGs target for the meeting basic needs of the people, this conference is trying to play a role as the vehicle of showcasing scientific works from around the world with the same interests alike. For a brief moment, we would like to invite you to stand and sing Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya. May all we stand.
Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sanalah aku berdiri, jadi pandu ibuku. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita bersatu, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku,
Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is reciting Holy Quran. We would like to call Mr. Mohammad Alwi Zulkifli. For your information, Mohammad Alwi Zulkifli won the first place on the national student level of Musabaqah Tilawatil Quran 2022, which was held at 11 Maret University. For Mohammad Alwi Zulkifli, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa idh qala rabbuka lil malaikati inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifah. قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك. قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم صدق الله العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sadaqallahul azim. Sadaqallahul azim wa nahnu ala dzalika minasyahidin. Thank you very much. May we get guidance from Allah Subhanahu wa taala. So as to pray for blessing for this conference, we would like to invite Dr. Ahmad Alim in dua recitation. Time is given.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan na'imin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhikal karim wa 'azimi sultanik. Allahumma ighfir lana wa li walidina wa li masyayikhina wa li tullabina wa li jami'il muslimin wal muslimat wal mu'minin wal mu'minat al-ahya'i minhum wal amwat. Allahumma la tada' lana fi maqamina hadha dhanban illa ghafartah wa la hamman illa farajtah wa la karban illa nafastah wa la daynan illa qadaitah wa la 'asiran illa yasartah wa la hajatan min hawaiji dunya wal akhirah ya lak ridha wa lana fiha salahun ila antana wa yasartana la qada'iha bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma ij'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'di tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al fina wa la minna wa la ma'na syaqiyyan wa la mahruma bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa zidna ilma. Allahumma inna nas'aluka 'ilman nafi'a wa rizqan thayyiban wa 'amalan mutaqabbala. Allahumma inna na'udzubika min 'ilmin la yanfa' wa min qalbin la yakhsha' wa min nafsin la tashba' wa min du'ain la yusma' wa min ha'ula'il arba' na'udzubika bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma qsim lana min khasyatika ma tahulu bihi bainana wa baina ma'siyatik wa min ta'atika ma tuballighuna biha jannatak wa min al-yaqin ma tuhawwinu bihi 'alaina masa'ibad dunya wa matti'na Allahumma bi asma'ina wa absarina wa quwwatina abadan ma abqaitana waj'alhu al-waritha minna waj'al tha'rana 'ala man zalamana wansurna 'ala man 'adana wa la taj'al musibatana fi dinina wa la taj'al ad-dunya akbar hammina wa la mablagha 'ilmina wa la tusallit 'alaina bi dhunubina man la yakhafuka fina wa la yarhamuna bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana hab lana min azwajina wa dhurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Allahumma ahsin akibatana fil umuri kulliha wa ajirna min khizyid dunya wa adzabil akhirah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Alim, for the recitations of dua just now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the welcome speech delivered by the chairman of IICASS 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Widyasari.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa na'udzubillahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa man yudhlilhu fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya ba'da. Amma ba'du. Distinguished participants and guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to welcome you to the Ibn Khaldun International Conference on Applied and Social Science, IICASS-2022, organized by Ibn Khaldun University, held at Auditorium Abdullah Siddiq, UIK on 26 October 2022. This international conference is supported by the Institute of Objective Studies, New Delhi, India, the National University of Malaysia, Ibn Khaldun University, Turkey, UST-Yemen, Juanda University, Indonesia, the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, the National Human Rights Commission of the Gambia, UIK Press, Open Conference System, Ibn Khaldun International Journal of Applied Science and Sustainability, Ibn Khaldun International Journal of Economic Regulation, Social, Cultural, and Sustainability, and all UICA journal affiliates. I would like to thank the keynote speakers, all guest speakers, participants, presenters, and session chair from various countries who have already given their best contribution to this conference. Thank you to all of the committee members for their hard work and great collaboration. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala reward you all with kindness, inshallah. Amin. Finally, once again, welcome to the rain city of Bogor, Indonesia. Hopefully, this conference will be the beginning of new networks and can improve professional development in the future. To all of our distinguished guests and participants, thank you for being here. Welcome and enjoy the conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Widyasari, for the opening speech. Mutasyakir Awi. Wal barnamaj yaliha al kalimah al iftitahiyah yulkiha Ra'isul Jami' Ibn Khaldun, Professor Dr. Mujahidin. We are now going to listen to the opening speech given by the Rector Bogor Ibn Khaldun University. Please welcome Professor Dr. Mujahidin.
Honorable Professor Dr. Atilla Arkan, President of Ibn Khaldun University, Turkey, Honorable Dr. Bima Arya Sugiarto, Mayor of Bogor, Honorable Dr. Didi Hilman, Head of UICA Foundation, Honorable Professor Dr. Didin Hafiduddin, Chair of the Academic Senate, all honorable speakers, and all distinguished participants. Allow me to speak in Arabic, please. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah Sayyidina Mohammad ibn Abdullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ah hudah. Amma ba'du. Sadati wa sayyidani, nahmadullah subhanahu ala annana nusyarik al-yawm mu'tamaran alamiyan tu'akiduhu Jami'ah Ibn Khaldun. Fa bismi Jami'ah Ibn Khaldun Bogor, ashkuru syukran jazilan alal mutahaddisin alladhina yatafaddaluna biilqa'i bihusihim al-alamiyah alladhina yatafaddaluna biilqa'i bihusihim al-ilmiyah fi hadal mu'tamar. Kama ashkuru syukran jazilan ila siyadah Rais Jami'ah Ibn Khaldun al-Turki alladhi tafaddala biilqa'i kalimati al-qimah lihadal mu'tamar. Fanarju min Allah Ta'ala ay yasira kulla sabil litaf'il sighah at-ta'awun al-mushtarak bainal jami'atain wa huma al-Jami'ah Ibn Khaldun al-Indonesi wa Turki. Bimasyiatillah Ta'ala sayatimu fi awanihi ansyitah syatta fi majalit ta'lim wal buhus wal khidmah al-ijtimaiyah. Kama ashkuru syukran jazilan ala kullil qaimin alladhina badalu juhdan li'itmami hadal mu'tamar. Nawaddu ayyuntajja min hadal mu'tamar tatwirul ma'lumat wan nadhariyat al-jadidah fima yakhussu bitanmiyah al-mustadamah wal muda'amah bil mamadi wal qiyam al-islamiyah. Haitsu innana ka muslimin nu'minu bi anna tatwiral ilm amrun hatmiyun li iddati asbab. Awalan li'anna al-ayat al-ula allati nuzilat ala rasulina al-karim Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam hiya ayatul ilm wal ma'rifah.
Recording in progress.
Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq khalaqal insana min 'alaq iqra wa rabbukal akram alladzi 'allama bil qalam 'allamal insana ma lam ya'lam kalla innal insana la yatgha. Hadhil ayah laha ma'aniha fi 'alamil ma'rifah lianna Allah Ta'ala lahu ayyanzila fi awali wahyihi an qadiyatit tauhid ala sabilil misal. Fabinuzuli ayatil qiraah wal ma'rifah isyaratun ila anna 'alal ummatil islamiyah yajibu ayyubadzilu juhdan fil qiraah wal ittila' li ta'miki imanihim wa tatwiri ma'rifatihim ala saddin sawa. Sanian li annal anbiya wal mursalin muzawwaduna li tablighi dinihim bil ilm wal ma'rifah. Wa qad anba'ana subhanahu bi anna Adam alaihi salam min ajallil ulama haitsu istaw'aba kullal ma'rifah. Ay laisa Adam jahil kama istada'a al-jahilun. Faqala ta'ala wa 'allama Adam al-asma'a kullaha summa 'aradahum 'alal malaikah faqala anbi'uni bi asma'i haula'i in kuntum shadiqin. Wa qad 'allaqa Ibn Katsir 'ala hadhil ayah faqala was-sahih annahu 'allamahu asma'al asya' kulliha zawatiha wa sifatiha wa af'alaha. Wa qala fi tafsir al-Jalalain ay 'allama Adam kullal asma hatta manafi'aha. Kama qala Ibnu Abbas hatta al-faswah wal kusayyah yakni asma'at zawat wal af'al al-mukabbar wal musaghghar. Wa ma'na dzalika anna Adam alaihi salam musaqqaful fikri haitsu kana lahu wasi'ul ufuq fima yata'allaqu bi umuril hayat. Wal amru kadzalika bin nisbah li nabiyillah Nuh alaihi salam. Wa qad kana lahu daurun barizun fi tatwiri teknologi al-malaha. Wa qala ta'ala wasna'il fulka bi ayunina wa wahyina wa la tukhatibni fil ladzina zalamu innahum mughraqun. Wa kadzalika al-hal bin nisbah li nabiyyina al-karim Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa qad najaha bisyaklil mudhil fi taghyiri halatin nas minal mujtama al-jahili ila al-mujtama al-madani khilala 23 sanah. Wal amru kadzalika bin nisbah li jailis sahabah wa tabi'in walladzina tabauhum bi ihsanin ila yaumina hadza wa hum jahiduna litanmiyati qudratihim al-ilmiyah li ajli tamkinil ummah al-mu'minah. Wa khitaman ta'alau bina najlis fi mu'tamirina hadha linutawwiru kifaatana al-ilmiyah wa nakhruju minhu litaf'ili musharakatina fi majalil ilmi wal ma'rifah wa narju minallah at-taufiq was-sadad. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Dr. Mujahidin, for the opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the opening speech given by the chairman of YPICA Foundation, Dr. Didi Hilman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Didi Hilman.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Honorable Rector of Ibn Khaldun University, Professor Dr. Mujahidin, Honorable Academic Senate, Chairman of Academic Senate, Professor Dr. Hafiduddin, Honorable President of Ibn Khaldun University, Turkey, Professor Dr. Atilla Arkan, respective from Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia, Professor Madya Rosmawati binti Mohammad Rasit, Honorable Rector from National Research and Innovation Agency, Professor Sri Irianti, SKM, M.Phil, Ph.D. Vice Chairman, Institute of Objective Studies, India, Professor Azfal, Wani. Honorable Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors, Yemen, and also Professor of Education, IIUM-Malaysia, Professor Dr. Dawood, Abdulmalek, Yahya, AL-Hidabi. Honorable Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission of the Gambia, Dr. Saiku Kausu Gassama. Their chair invites panels, participants of IICASS, and my beloved committee. All praise is due to Allah, the Master and the Creator of everything indigenous, for enabling us to meet together in this occasion. Peace be upon the noble Prophet Mohammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family, companion, and faithful follower until the end of time. Dear Professor, Lecturer, Researcher, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ibn Khaldun Foundation for Islamic Education, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and welcome you to Ibn Khaldun International Conference on Applied and Social Sciences 2022. Moreover, I honorably welcome to our keynote and invite speaker on IICASS 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I assume that the society, especially in educational field, requires many people who have research, skills, critical thinking, and skill in counseling, mentoring, yard work, and social welfare training. The applied social science will prepare people to work with the individual, groups, and communities in different environments to aid and improving the quality of life. The conference is one of the biggest events that have been held in Ibn Khaldun University. I believe that this event carries out spirit to encourage and the collaboration among us, because it will be proper place for information sharing regarding the science. By this, I with the entire committee hope for this conference to be beneficial for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with good health and to make this event a successful and innumerable one. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Didi Hilman, for the welcoming speech. Ayuhal hadirun, nad'ukum bimusyahadati video profile للجامعة Ibn Khaldun. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on, we would like to invite you to watch a video profile of Bogor Ibn Khaldun University.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Universitas Ibn Khaldun adalah universitas yang didirikan oleh para pejuang negara yang kita cintai ini. Universitas ini didirikan untuk mendidik para pejuang yang akan membangun negara ini dengan nilai-nilai Islami. Moto Universitas Ibn Khaldun adalah iman, ilmu, dan amal. Oleh karena itu, segala aktivitas, baik pembelajaran, penelitian, maupun pengabdian kepada masyarakat harus dilandasi dengan nilai-nilai iman, harus dilandasi dengan nilai-nilai ilmu, sehingga bisa memperoleh manfaat yang sebesar-besarnya bagi masyarakat. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala senantiasa memberikan kemudahan kepada Universitas Ibn Khaldun di dalam melaksanakan misinya di Indonesia ini. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Our commitment to contribute to educating the nation's children has led Bogor Ibn Khaldun University to be part of the 100 best universities in Indonesia. Out of a total 2,141 universities that has been recognized by the Directorate General of Higher Education of Indonesia, Bogor Ibn Khaldun University consists of 7 faculties with 4 levels of education. Faculty of Teacher Training and Education with study programs, English Language Education, Out-of-School Education, Educational Technology, Fashion Design Vocational Education. Faculty of Law with study program, Law Education. Faculty of Economics and Business with study program, Accounting, Management, Finance and Banking, Digital Business, and International Trade. Faculty of Engineering and Science with study programs, Mechanical Engineering, Electrical Engineering, Informatics Engineering, and Civil Engineering. Faculty of Islam with study programs Islamic Education, Ahwal Ash-Shakhsiyah, Islamic Communication and Broadcasting, Sharia Economics, Islamic Education Counseling Guidance, Ibtidaiyah Madrasah Teacher Education, Quranic Science and Tafsir, Hajj and Umrah Management. Faculty of Health with study programs Public Health and Nutrition. Postgraduate School for Master Program with study programs Islamic Education, Sharia Economics, Management, Educational Technology, and Business Law. And also for doctoral program with study programs Islamic Education and Sharia Economics. Bogor Ibn Khaldun University has graduated more than 25,000 students from diploma, bachelor, master, and doctor who are ready to spread the benefits for this country. Therefore, Bogor Ibn Khaldun University is there to make it happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the exuberant welcoming dance, ladies and gentlemen, we are now present you Saman Dance.
Saman Dance, or Dance of Thousand Hands, is a traditional dance from Aceh province. It is normally performed to celebrate important occasions.
Assalamualaikum. Kamu ucapkan lampau bagan jambe bantekan. Hats! Assalamualaikum, kamu ucapkan para undangan yang baru teka karena salam Nabi kesunan jaratan maman tanda mulia. Assalamualaikum, kamu ucapkan para undangan yang baru teka salam sejahtera. Sampailah kita pendekar bangsa damai sentosa. Hats! Hats kala hats menan menan, hats kala hats menan menan, cot ampon putri raja. Hatskala hats mendan mendan, hatskala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Hatskala hats mendan mendan, hatskala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Cinta mana tidak berhias, jalinnya lalu rentah seribu. Bagailah mana hendak berhias, cerminku retak seribu. Ku rindam lagu bergema takbir, tiung bernyanyi panen jati, bertanam tabu di pinggir bibir, rebung berduri di hati. Hendak ku rasa puncaknya gunung dah ditawan. Tidak ku daya, tingginya tidak terlawan. Hats kala hats mendan mendan, hats kala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Hats kala hats mendan mendan, hats kala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Hats kala hats mendan mendan, hats kala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Hats kala hats mendan mendan, hats kala hats mendan mendan, cat ampon putri raja. Amin Allah sembah amin. Urang mukmin gela-gela doa berkat rahmat Allah yang beri. Ibnu Khaldun makmur sejahtera. Lale katonyo lale hana jantan te umuka tua, ku tengon jangon kuningon mise, hantum ta jumpe ti komu salam. Ku tengon jangon kuningon mise, hantum ta jumpe ti komu salam. Hantum ta jumpe ti komu salam, hantum ta jumpe ti komu salam. Hai jut majut cikuro-kuro gunung di umat tamonku dalam donya. Huro cikuro malam-malam di sebe, malaikat gejanyo tama. Hai jut majut cikuro-kuro gunung di umat tamonku dalam donya. Huro cikuro malam-malam di sebe, malaikat gejanyo tama. Hajut maju cikura-kura gunung di umat tamonku dalam donya. Huro cikura malam-malam di sebe, malaikat gajahnya utama. Hats Heta jauh Aceh, heta jauh Aceh lah harus dipalung pade, lah harus dipalung pade. Maraba mantife lah harus di pasar mile, lah harus di pasar mile. Heta jauh Aceh lah harus dipalung pade, lah harus dipalung pade. Maraba mantife lah harus di pasar mile, lah harus di pasar mile. Hats. Hai bula menari, ate manggulau, ate manggulau. Bula menari, baca membulong, hei bulong, baca bulong, ana lagual, hai laot sah, ilala ombaba, halai kapaiji, etran balumba, hai bacatra, salala bukhamsha, halai awai pun salah awai bagatai laot sah, ilala ombaba, alai kapaiji, balumba hai bacitra salala bukhamsha alai awai pun salah awai bagatai laotsa ilala omba ma alai kapaiji etran balumba hai bacitra salala bukhamsha alai awai pun salah awai bagatai laotsa ilala omba ma alai kapaiji etran balumba bacatra salala bukhamsha awai awai pun salah awai bagatai laatsa hats
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next session, the attendees are welcome to coffee break. The next agenda will start promptly after the coffee break at 9:10. Thank you very much.
فليتفضل على الضيوف لتناول القهوة والكعك ونحن سنؤكد البرنامج بعد قليل. Ya, baik Bapak Ibu, kami persilakan untuk menerima coffee break. Dan kita akan mulai pada jam berapa Pak Erik?
9:10.
Jam 9:10. Terima kasih.
However, before we move further to the next agenda, we would like to inform you IICASS 2022 is organized by Bogor Ibn Khaldun University in collaboration with various institutions as co-hosts, both domestically and even some foreign countries, such as Innovation Agency BRIN, Juanda University, Ibn Khaldun University Turkey, the Institute of Objective Study India, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, National Human Rights Commissions of the Gambia, and so on and so on. And welcome to our conference, Mayor of Bogor, Mr. Bima Arya, and ladies and gentlemen, excellencies participants, and ladies and gentlemen, we are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda, that is to hear the keynote speech which will be delivered by the Mayor of Bogor, Mr. Bima Arya. Time is given.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Ketua Yayasan Ibn Khaldun, Bapak Didi Hilman, The Honorable Rector UICA, Professor Mujahidin, The Honorable President of Ibn Khaldun University of Turkey, Professor Atilla Arkan, and the Honorable Professor Didin Hafiduddin. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning for all of you. First of all, I would like to deliver my appreciations for conducting a very important and timely event at this stage of uncertainty. And it is really an honor for me to give some sort of introductions for upcoming discourse which is relevant for our daily life today. Ladies and gentlemen, after Millennium Development Goals completed in 2015, the agenda of the world continue to be prolonged to 2030 to achieve a very ambitious target which should be accomplished by all leaders of the world. The target of the world has been settled in a very important document which is called The Future We Want. It is very visionary to set the target in 2030. What can be achieved by the time of 2030? And it is now under the framework of SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. Those targets who have not been completed in the framework of MDGs now will be continued in the framework of SDGs with some major revisions. For example, the first issue, it is the fact that SDGs is now much more comprehensive because the framework is now constructed not only by a few countries, but it has been involving more countries compared to MDGs. Not only those countries from developed worlds, but also many countries from developing countries. And the second issue is the need to enhance the source of funding. MDGs tend to be relied more on the funding which come from government, MDGs. But now, in the framework of SDGs, the source of funding more varied. Not only the government actors, but also pentahelix. It includes think tank, academia, it includes entrepreneurs, private sectors, companies, it includes NGOs, and also mass media. Because now we believe the magic of pentahelix. The government cannot do all alone. The government should accommodate entrepreneurs, mass media, particularly think tank. And the third issue, it is also interesting. Compared to MDGs, SDGs is much more focused on the issue of human rights, hak asasi, to ensure that nothing discriminated in the process of achieving the target of SDGs. No negative impact resulted by development, and also no one left behind. So the government now should be focused on what we always emphasize as the inclusive city, the cities for all, no one left behind, particularly focusing on those who have disabilities, those who have handicap, and those who have been marginalized, the poor, disabilities, and so on and so forth. That's what we call as cities for all, no one left behind. And it is interesting if you are observing what is happening today in the global scheme. We set the target, a very ambitious target to achieve in 2030. But now, as I said, we are facing the age of uncertainty. We are now facing the dilemma of uncertainty. The war between Russia and Ukraine is impacting not only European regions, but also impacting all over the world. Now, G20 is focusing on how to solve the war between Ukraine and Russia, because the damage has been huge, not only in terms of security, but also in terms of economics. The world is now facing the possible economic crisis in 2023, 7 years before 2030, the time when we should accomplish the target of SDGs. So it is really our problem today. As far as the challenge which we are facing now in terms of SDGs, it is also the fact that we are now struggling to cope with the pandemic. Yes, the pandemic is almost over. Yes, it is the fact that most of countries has been dealing with the pandemic quite smoothly. But we never know whether it is really over or whether there will be another pandemic. So never before in world history we are facing health issues as serious as this. You know, not only the COVID-19, but we are facing the threats of having another endemic. Cacar monyet, for example, and so on and so forth. So it is really the age of uncertainty. The health issues, war issues, facing economic crisis. And it is also important to note that we are anticipating the time of political years. We are preparing to enter the year of politics in 2024. So the challenges are huge actually. We are in the middle of crisis today, but we are also facing another potential crisis, political crisis, economic crisis, and so on and so forth. And I believe that the magic of pentahelix is the key to solve the problems. As I said, as I emphasized, the government cannot do it all alone. If we are learning from what we have dealt with the pandemic, the huge success lies in the collaborations among stakeholders. The collaboration among the governments, the academia, the think tank, the entrepreneurs. We cannot solve the problems all alone, no. The government, yes, has the plan to develop, but the entrepreneurs, of course, has the source of money. The think tank has the ideas. The communities has the networking. So it is the time for collaborations. For example, ladies and gentlemen, if you are talking about stunting issues, it is quite serious. It is really impossible to achieve the target of 2030 in SDGs framework when we are not solving the problems of stunting. Every cities in Indonesia is now dealing with this important issue, stunting. Not far from where the president resides, in the Bogor Palace, in Kelurahan, for example, Sempur, in Tegalega, in Lebakanting, there are stunting cases. There are some cases which need to be focused by the local governments, by collaborations with the campus, collaborations with the funding sectors, and so on and so forth. We need not only short-term visions, we need long-term visions. We should not be trapped, but what I call as quick win trap. The leaders today tend to be trapped with the quick win trap, achieving short-term goals, achieving what they define as long and hanging fruit, easy to achieve and easy to be seen. Beautification of the cities, for example, and give discount for education, subsidies, incentives for health system and infrastructure, for example, but forget to invest in long term. Talking about stunting, it is a long term. Health issues, it is a long term. Improving the character of the society, it is a long term. SDGs, it is impossible to be achieved if you are ignoring the long-term visions, if you are trapped only by achieving short-term visions. Yes, our political system tends to be one of the factors behind the short-term visions of political leaders, because they have the targets to achieve some degree of popularities proven by polls or survey, for example, modalities for the next elections. But these countries need more statesmen than politicians. We need more those who think about next generations, not about only next elections. SDGs about next generations. SDGs is about long-term visions. So our challenge today is emphasizing the need in making collaborations among stakeholders. So those who have short-term vision can be evaluated. Those who have only short-term visions can be assessed, can be complemented by the magic of pentahelix. This is the importance of having this important event, emphasizing the collaborations, strengthening the ideas, and also narrowing the gap among any stakeholders. If you are talking about SDGs, again, we need to have the strong and solid concept. Not only mastered by the executive, but also the legislative. As you may already aware, that local budget is approved by the local parliament. National budget is also approved by the national parliament. It is impossible that one bill will be passed without the approval by the national parliament. And so does SDGs. So it is impossible that only the executive which focus on SDGs without the support of the parliament, local parliament and national parliament. So our main agenda is mainstreaming the concept of SDGs. SDGs should be comprehended, should be understood also by the legislative, also by political parties. If you are now looking closely at the issues raised by political parties, do you see any agenda of SDGs delivered by political parties? Do we see that any political leaders talking about SDGs more compared to the issues of political practice? I don't think so. I don't think so. So our homework today, again, is mainstreaming the issue as SDGs to any stakeholders and any actors, including political actors at the national and local level. As far as I'm concerned, I have the challenge for having discussions with political leaders from all any political parties focusing on the issue of SDGs. It is dangerous because they have the power to ratify legislations. They have the power to approve the budgets. When the President Jokowi set a target, a detailed target through Bappenas and other related ministries, it should be supported by all parties. So our problem today, again, is the mainstreaming issue of SDGs. 8 years left to 2030. We have been experiencing hard times during the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure, I'm very optimistic if we are aware to strengthening the collaboration systems among any stakeholders, if we are know how to mainstream the issue of SDGs, and if we are making, if we are enhancing the networking, not only at regional level, but also international level, we can be on the track to achieve the target in 2030. And in the context of Bogor, we have set so many foundations to achieve the target. I emphasize until the kelurahan level, every lurah has to identify the challenge in achieving SDGs. Lurah, for me, lurah is like professor. They have to master the data. They have to know the concept in, doing or diagnose the problems. And lurah also should be the motivator, because they educate the people, they bring the people to PAUD, to Posyandu. Lurah also a conceptor, they think, they propose, they do. Professor, motivator, conceptor. So no easy job for lurah. today. But of course, I have given more incentive for Lurah to perform their duty. And I also emphasize the importance of sustainability issues. It is rather delicate because it is sophisticated. Talking about sustainability, according to the polls, more and more younger generation, Gen Y, Gen X, and Gen Z now has more concerns on the issue of climate change compared to previous generations. If they are asked, what is more important between those two issues? First, economic growth. Second, sustainability. According to the polls, they prefer the second one. Gen Y, Gen X, and Gen Z, they are having more concerns on the issue of climate change compared to the previous generation. It is their attentions on how to solve the issue of waste management. It is now their issues about how we can deal with the environmental issues, flood, and so on and so forth. So there is no way if the younger generation more concerned, but on the other hand, the government ignore the potential of younger generations. In the city of Bogor, we are involving younger generations to deal with the climate change issues, campaigning waste management. Since 3 years ago, we introducing the mayoral decree to ban the plastic bags to be used in retail market throughout the city of Bogor. And next year, inshallah, we'll be implementing the mayoral decree to ban plastic bag to be used in traditional market. Now it is still in the stage of socializations. And we are moving to the next level of using electric vehicle. You may already aware, if you are going to the Bogor Palace and surrounding area, you will see the purple cycle, the purple bicycle. So you can rent the purple bicycle by only paying 700 per minute or around 40,000 per hour to be used in going to some destinations of attractions in the city center of Bogor. It is not easy, but we are going forward. Next month, the mayor will have the new operational car, electric vehicle. It is based on what Presiden Jokowi has released through Inpres, penggunaan kendaraan listrik. And we are also buying 10 electric motorcycle to be used for operational. Yes, it will be pros and cons. It will be those who reject the idea, those who support the idea. But somewhere, somehow, the show must go on. Someone should initiate the program. And we are glad to see how the society in Bogor are now respecting the issue of climate change, environmental issues, and so on and so forth. For example, the last few months, the city of Bogor have been debating the need for having the glow attractions in Kebun Raya Bogor, in our beloved botanical garden. If you are observing what has happened in the city of Bogor, many people reject the idea for having nightlife entertainment in the botanical garden. not only from the activists of environmental issues, but also the NGO activists, budayawan, tokoh agama, and so on and so forth. So for me, it is proven that the city of Bogor has the strong modalities to be the leader of the nation in achieving SDGs, particularly on the issue of climate change and environmental. And at this important event, I do hope that this issue will be narrowed, will be strengthened, and of course, then will be delivered in a wider scene, in a wider level, to prove that we have very strong commitment in achieving the target of SDGs. I think that would be the end of my presentations. I hope that the discussion can be very fruitful in strengthening our commitment. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, would you like to stay on the podium because we would like to launch the international journal, a journal of UICA. Okay, we would like to invite Mr. Rector and Deputy Rectors. Yeah, please, Rectors, Deputy Rectors.
We would like to invite Chairman of YPICA Foundation. We would like to invite Chairman of Academic Senate, Professor Dr. Mujahidin Hafiduddin, and also Professor Madya Rosmawati Mohammad Rasit, Professor Sri Irianti, Ph.D, and Mr. Mova Al-Ghifani to come forward to the stage to press the start button for the launch video of UICA International Journal.
There are 3 journals that will be launched today. The first is Ibn Khaldun International Journal Economic Community Empowerment on Sustainability. The second is Ibn Khaldun International Journal of Applied Sciences and Sustainability. And the journal are published by Institute of Research and Community Services LPPM Bogor Ibn Khaldun University.
And for the audience, now we will have the soft launch of UICA International Journal.
By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I am Bima Arya Sugiarto, the Mayor of Bogor, hereby launch the Ibn Khaldun International Journal hereby launch the Ibn Khaldun International Journal. 1, 2, 3.
We would like to watch the giving the token of appreciation given by Professor Mujahidin to Mayor of Bogor, Bima Arya. And still, Pak Bima and others still stay on the stage because we will have photo session. Okay.
Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, and now we will hold a photo sessions to keynote speakers, the deans, as well as participants are welcome to take a position.
Okay, we will have photo session.
Once again, Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, and now we will hold a photo sessions to keynote speakers, the deans, as well as participants are welcome to take a position. Thank you very much.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, give applause to our Mayor of Bogor, Bima Arya Sugiarto.
Thank you, Pak Bima Arya, for the speech and insight. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda. We will have a plenary session which will be delivered by Professor Madya Rosmawati Mohammad Rasit from Universitas Kebangsaan UK-Malaysia, Professor Sri Irianti from BRIN Researcher Indonesia, Mr. M.Phil, Ph.D, Bogor Ibn Khaldun University Indonesia, to share their expertise in this plenary session.
This session will be moderated by Nirwan Shafrin, Ph.D. To Pak Nirwan Shafrin, the floors, the tables are yours. Give applause.
Give applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'a hudah, amma ba'du. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to moderate this session. And this session will be divided into two sessions. This is an offline session, and then the second will be the online session, whose speakers coming from some other part of the world. One is from Gambia, another is from India, and another one is from our neighboring country, Malaysia. Honorable Chairman of Ibn Khaldun Education Foundation, Honorable Rector of Ibn Khaldun University, Professor Dr. Mujahidin, our dearest teacher, Professor Mujahidin Hafiduddin, all our respected guest speakers, professors, doctors, scholars, intellectuals, participants, lecturers, and students, and all audiences in this room and in the virtual room. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to give a brief note on our conference today as an introduction to our conference and presentation, which you are going to listen after this brief note. The theme of our conference is Challenges and Opportunities in Achieving SDGs Target to fulfill the basic needs of the people. The theme of our conference is indeed very timely, simply because of the realities facing our world today, where we find ourselves in a great paradox. On one hand, we are indeed very pleased and blessed to have a very much sophisticated, advanced, and comfortable life compared to the life of people 100 years ago. Due to rapid development in science and technology, many things have been extremely improved that make people's lives much easier. However, on the other hand, we are also faced with numerous problems, crises, plight, which human history has never seen. Fritjof Capra, one of the celebrated intellectuals, in his book Turning Point, which is published in 1982, wrote in that book where he said that our life today is confronted with multifaceted and multidimensional crisis. We have crisis in economy, we have crisis in politics, ecological crisis, moral crisis, and recently we just passed what we call as the health crisis. Ziauddin Sardar, another scholar, described the present development of science and technology as touch of Midas, which is the title of his book. Midas is a king in Greek mythology whose touch can change everything into gold. So whatever he touches, then it becomes gold. So it's supposed to be a kind of blessed to him. However, it makes his life become difficult. He can eat, he can drink, and even he can touch his wife, because when he touch, it becomes gold. So his life becomes suffering. So we are all today are very aware that we are surrounded with such multiplicated problems, which none of us can ignore just by hoping that everything will be fine by time pass on. Problem of poverty, problem of violation of human rights. People have difficulty to access clean water. And all these are the issues that are confronting all of us. They are lying before our eyes. It is against this background the discussion on SDG, At-Tanmiyah Al-Mustadamah, which is adopted by world leaders in 2015, becomes profoundly important to be discussed. We Muslims should play a major role in defining and conceptualizing this concept. Otherwise, we will become a victim. We should have a major significant contribution in ensuring the achievement of the SDGs. That is simply because that we are created as the vicegerent, as the Khalifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose duty is to bring prosperity, development, and well-being to all people. Huwa alladhi ansha'akum min al-ardi wasta'amarakum fiha. He created you in this world to bring prosperity and development. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are very honored to have distinguished scholars and professors of diverse intellectual and educational backgrounds, being expert in their own fields, who come from different countries. In this session, we are very pleased and honored to have Associate Professor Dr. Rosmawati Mohammad Rasit from the University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Also we have Professor Sri Irianti, SKM M.Phil, Ph.D, Senior Researcher at National Research and Innovation Agency. And lastly, we are very much pleased to have our young scholar and social activist from this university, Ibn Khaldun University, Mohammad Al-Afghani, Ph.D. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Professor Rosmawati to present his paper. Falyatafaddal mashkura. The time is allocated only 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Dr. Nirwan.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Qala rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Very honorable guests, my respected speakers, and my fellow friends, new friends,
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Alhamdulillah, it's very honored to be here today. Since 2016, I've been here, especially with the contribution and also the collaboration with Almarhumah Muzahra. And also, this is the second time here, 2022, mashallah. It's a very long journey. The collaboration between UKM and also UICA, mashallah, today, I believe this is not only to be discussed more about SDGs goals, but we can be more, need a very good program instead of, for example, like research, for example, like international program, and so on and so forth. Today, I would like to present more about, the title is Expert Consensus on Tabayun, Clarification Information Indicator for Muslim Netizen through Fuzzy Delphi Technical Application. This is one of the findings about the research, more about the indicator for tabayun or clarification information. Okay, 20 minutes is not too long, so we start with the introduction. Why this is very important to be discussed, especially when we talk about the information of your fingertips. We are Muslim netizen. Do we agree that I do really interested about the keynote speech from Dr. Bima Arya? Do we believe that we are living in VUCA world? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and also ambiguity. So this is, we have to educate more, especially for Muslim netizen. Either you are baby boomers, either you are Gen X, Y, and also Z, even our next generation, Alpha and also Beta. This is very important to take in considerations about tabayun, clarification of information. Why? Because sometimes when we use social media, any here that have social media account, for example, like Facebook, IG, even TikTok, we are actually from this different world, but we are using the same application, like Indonesia and Malaysia, okay? And then sometimes we are confusing which one is the true news or information and which one is more fake news. So this is the meaning of how Islam encourages us to do some sort of tabayun. Okay. So the research is more about the indicator of the elements of tabayun, how we are going to do some kind of information, whether we're going to spread it without looking the authority or the sources of the authority, or we do believe that kind of sources and then we spread it again and again until it becomes viral. So this research is more about clarification of tabayun itself, information, and then we do some kind of expert consensus that we call it informant, to have certain indicators. What should we do as a Muslim netizen? Okay. So have you heard about Fuzzy Delphi method? This is some of the methods that we are going to have an expert consensus. For example, we are shortlisted all the elements, all the indicators, and then we do some of the consensus part. Then we have the application to finalize all the indicators that come up with the model. Okay. So, such as the situation in Muslim netizen especially, it can cause a very panic because we do not really know either it's a very fake news or it's truth, and then actually it can emphasize that the false information holds and not really the exact source, and then inaccurate references, and then in the same time it can spread all the false information and is accepted by society, and due to the lack of truthful social media information. Okay. Sometimes it can be a very harmful potential of the information accuracy because we don't really understand what is the process of tabayun itself. In Surah Al-Hujurat, verses 6, okay, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. Fatabayyanu, at-tabayyun is a Quranic term that actually they discuss more about a fasiq person. When a fasiq person deliver the messages or the news, all the information, and this is the character who has very weak religious, and then the fasiq, when we deliver the messages and also the news, that actually becomes the process of tabayun itself. Why? Because the process of tabayun meaning that we are going to prepare ourselves about the information, and then we need the guidance regarding the truthful of the information. So this is very important to our Muslim community because Islam stresses the information accuracy in terms of truth and also validity. When we talk about the accuracy of information, how are we going to deal with SDG goals? Actually, it's a part of goal 3. It's not only good health for physically, but also we have to talk about well-being of community. In this research, we are focusing on well-being towards Muslim netizens, and then it's a part of human factor. It's not only the physical, but for example, like two years of pandemic, we are emphasizing on mental health. This is also a part of critical issue need to be discussed. So mental health is a part of how we're going to encourage people to have very good or well-being lifestyle. So the issue of information accuracy is contribute to how we are going to encourage people to do some kind of good deeds. Let me discuss more details about the method. Okay, the method is about we are using the fuzzy Delphi method. It's a very new method. How we are going to need more data from the expert consensus. In this study, we have 10 experts involved in the fuzzy Delphi application process. Okay, next slide. Okay, so 10 experts actually from fields of religion, da'wah, and also new media. How we contribute with the fuzzy instruments to have the indicators of tabayun, and then we ask them to agree with all the items. Okay, next. Okay, so the findings is more about how we're going to have the indicators. For example, to discuss more about how the netizen is receive and read the information obtained, to analyze information before they spread it or disseminate it, to investigate source of information received from before they disseminate it, to control the transmission of false information, ignore the information received, whether it is false or truth, receive information from own knowledge, disseminate accurate and true information, trust and disseminate the information received, receive and research information but do not disseminate it, receive
investigate and disseminate information. These are the indicators whether the netizen, especially the Muslim netizen, if they do this kind of act, that means they are using the tabayun process. And it's very important to have a detail whether they are practicing the good deeds or not. Because sometimes we don't really know whether the information is correct or it's just a fake news. So we have to educate, especially for Muslim netizens, to know what should they do if they receive that kind of information. Okay. So we have 10 indicators in these studies. It's about the ad or what should they do when they receive that kind of information. It's not all that we can believe all the information, because in the VUCA world, what is VUCA? Again, we share together. V is for volatility, U is for uncertainty that has been discussed, have been talked about that just now by Dr. Bima Arya. Uncertainty. We are in uncertainty world. We do not really know in our social media world, in new media world, what kind of news that actually can guide us to the right path, or it can make to be us as a better person, or it can the other way around. So C is for complexity and A is for ambiguity. This is the VUCA word that actually is not really harmful to our next generation as Gen Z, but also for baby boomers. I have some kind of experience. Baby boomers, we are here. Any kind of generation for baby boomers here that actually born in 50s, 60s, they're actually shocked by using social media. So they're really, really eager to share everything that they get it from social media. So this is the way when we discuss more detail about gap generation, we have found that baby boomers X, Y, and Z is totally different. The character of them is totally different. How Gen Z accept and receive the information, for sure, is totally different from baby boomers X and Y. So Pak Niwan, you are in which generation you are? Okay, so I do believe that Gen Z, you have a lot of information. Baby boomers, you have a lot of information, but the way you use the information, for sure, is very, very differently. Okay. So the indicators actually can help you how you are going to believe this is the tabayun process that actually encouraged by Islam. Okay. Next. So by using the fuzzy Delphi technique, we are arranged the model by looking at the threshold value, meaning that all the indicators we have to rearrange and come up with a model, which one is the first, second, third, until 10. So the contribution of this indicator is almost 98%, meaning that we can use this indicator to make sure all the Muslim netizens can prepare themselves whether they are using the tabayun process or not when they are facing that all the kind of information by using social media that we get, that they have read in Twitter, for example, in IG, in Facebook, or they can get the information from spreading the messages from friends and so on and so forth. Okay, last but not least, I do believe that receive and read the information obtained is the first one of the element of the indicator for tabayun process, and it means that everybody, we should have the responsibility to prepare ourselves to get the truth first, seeking the truth first before we spreading the news or the information. So the study is to recommend that the Tabayun principles should be regarded as benchmark for the truth and validity of the information. So when we talk about the social media, netizens should filter the information, and before that way they collect the information from social media especially, and before disseminate it to spread, they need to investigate the authority of the sources who send the messages or the information to them. And then especially when dealing with the social media, they have to refer to Tabayun information indicator to afford the solution to spread, to stop the fake news, and also the Tabayun attitude is process. So we need, this is to need to be practiced, and Muslim netizen can provide more sophisticated social atmosphere without slander and false news components. And we do believe that we can change our world. It's not only for VUCA world, but the world that actually we have a lot of truth, we have the dominance of integrity, and also for sure this is the part of Islamic values and also sustainability towards Islam and towards the Muslim community itself. Okay, that's all for to this presentation. Hopefully we have the Q&A session after this to prepare and to share more details about the research. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakillahi khairal jaza' ala ma tafaddalti. Insyaallah al-ma'lumat allati alqadha Profesor Rosmawati mufidatun wa yantafi'u lil jami' insyaallah. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue that is brought by Professor Rosmawati is about how to to measure the healthy information to be received and to be disseminated. Karena kata beliau ada hubungan antara kesehatan mental dengan informasi. Karena kalau salah mendapat informasi bisa mengganggu kesehatan mental juga, dan kesehatan mental bagian daripada SDGs. Betul Prof ya? Insyaallah nanti kita kalau ada kesempatan kita akan diskusikan selanjutnya. Ladies and gentlemen, the next session will be delivered by Professor Sri Irianti from National Research and Innovation Agency. The title of the presentation is, let me see first. The title of the presentation is Major Challenges in Achieving Sustainable Development Goals 6 in Indonesia. For this, the time is yours, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the Honorable Bapak Profesor Dr. Mujahidin, the Rector of Ibn Khaldun, Indonesia. And secondly, Professor Atilla from Ibn Khaldun, Turkey, and also Vice or Deputy Rector of Ibn Khaldun, Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Budi Susetyo, and also Ibu Dr. Widyasari for the invitation, and also Professor Didin Hafiduddin for the attendance in such an important international conference on applied and social sciences here. again, this is the first time I enter the, such nice campus of Islamic University in Bogor City.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, and I'm very honored to be here to try to disseminate current information on the progress of SDG 6, particularly the two targets, 6.1 and 6.2. Next, please. Nowadays, we are confronted with huge challenges concerning environmental degradation, and in turn will influence the public health status of our nation here in Indonesia. Because if the target should be achieved in 2030, we just have like 8 years to go. Sadly, or unfortunately, our progress is very, very slow compared to the global progress in terms of water, sanitation, and hygiene. And as can be seen that Sustainable Development Goal number 6 has 11 indicators and 8 targets, but I only focus on the worst aspect because this is the foundation of public health. Because without a good achievement of SDG 6, we can't achieve any other 16 goal of the SDGs. And according to the findings of research, we found that water, sanitation, and hygiene is very important and significant, what you call it, services to provide public health, good status of public health, and also prolonging life, and also beyond public health, we are concerned about the social economic development, including the education. The mayor just said that the importance of stunting here, we have many cases here in city of Bogor as well as Bogor district. Bogor district I think is worse than Bogor city. And also sanitation especially is a good predictor for the prevalence of stunting among children under 5. And also dealing with no left behind, when previously on the MDGs we only focus on the target 7C concerning improved drinking water, but we have here when I have highlighted the red circle about the global achievement will not be what we call it, will not be achieved universally in 2030. Why? Because we have problem or challenges in terms of 9 components, and I will talk them later on. And this is can be seen that we focus on the goal 6.1 and goal 6.2. Next, please. Yeah. We have in Indonesia, Bappenas and also other stakeholders have formulated a roadmap of the SDGs Indonesia. In terms of WOS indicator, there is different operational definition regarding the WOS, and then scholar can read later on the internet. And also when we saw at the safely managed drinking water, previously we used the indicator of improved drinking water is only sumber air minum layak, but we now move to that air aman, safely managed drinking water. Why? Because there is one criterion about water quality, drinking water quality. Almost source of water in Indonesia contaminated by Escherichia coli as an indicator of fecal contamination. Fecal contamination because of point sources like septic tank, or because of non-point sources. We know that Indonesia still have kind of like almost 3% of open defecation. In Indonesia we call it buang air besar sembarangan. This is very important because we already in the G20, but we still have open defecation significantly compared to Bangladesh. For instance, Bangladesh has eliminated open defecation prevalence. That we have to deal with such challenge about WOS. And also we can see the progress in the figures. We can download figures, interactive figure for the WOS data released by joint monitoring program between WHO and UNICEF, and we can compare and contrast. And we found that there is inequality or inequity as well. It means then no left behind slogan is only slogan if we don't have accelerated strategies to achieve the SDGs. And also, so sanitation also has, Indonesia, I mean, doesn't follow the global indicators appropriately. For instance, there is no data about WOS in healthcare facilities, such as hospital or pusat kesehatan masyarakat or health center. 2 years ago, we found that COVID-19 referral hospital still has insufficient water, sanitation, and hygiene. It was surprised because to overcome virus disease like COVID-19, we have to have sufficient water in terms of quantity and quality as well. You know, maybe have read a paper regarding the research finding from LIPI, ex-LIPI, that if we catch COVID-19, our immune is dropped significantly, and then if we admitted to the hospital, we can suffer other infection from bacteria, we call it resistant bacteria, and then maybe we can die because of, not because of COVID, but because of other infection. This already proved by women researcher from last year. And also, when we see this here, yes, about self-supply. What is self-supply? You know that the drinking water companies, or PDAM, only provide about 21% of population. The coverage is very, very low, and the progress also very slow. Why? And then many people have to provide drinking water for household members using like spring water or duck well, sumur gali, also from hand pump water supply. They are not treated with certain chemical to eliminate the fecal contamination. And then also about the dummy, we call it depot air minum. For some people assume that water, kiosk water is better than, you know, PDAM water, but it's not always true, because when we buy water from the kiosk, we just exchange our gallon, and then we got the fill gallon and bring to your house, right? And then when we don't know the quality of water, is there any disinfection before you got the water? And then another thing is also about bottled water. Bottled water is much better branded water, but this is not sustainable, because in terms of price for the you know, household with limited income, for example, that according to the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, we have to use to expend our money about 4% of our income per month to buy drinking water. But in slum area as well as rural area, the household spend more money for buying water. This is not sustainable. Because the time is very limited, and I would like to discuss about how to deal with the wide gap of SDG 6. We use two frameworks here, using the call it WAS system building blocks. There are 9 components, and we found qualitatively that about 5 components we can categorize them as major challenges. The first one is dealing with the infrastructure. The first one is policy and legislation. Here we have our colleague Dr. Mofa. His expertise is dealing with water regulation, and yes, he is very expert in terms of improving or to harmonize all regulation here dealing with water and sanitation in Indonesia. And also, secondly, about finance. According to UNICEF, we have to spend for each person in Indonesia for year about $26 for water and sanitation, but the government and also donor agency only provide about $3 per US dollars per person. So the underfinance, and also we competing with other basic needs for Indonesia. So this is our problem. So this should be overcome. And secondly, the third about monitoring. Why monitoring is important? Because we have to gather, it's not only gather data and information, and then what can be done with data and information. Then we have to use the indicator, like Professor Madya said that indicator is important because we can assess and evaluate about anything to achieve the target properly. And also the infrastructure. Why some people do not like to use PDAM or water companies' water? Because of they think that because of the smell of what do you call it, caporit, we call it, yes, chlorine. Chlorine is important to kill the germ or to kill the bacteria, viruses, as well as protozoa in water. But some people do not like the smell. And we are fortunate here in Bogor City because the PDAM is very good. I'm not the sponsor of the PDAM actually, Tirta Pakuan, but I found that at home that the smell of caporit still exists. That means that we are protected. Dealing with drinking water contamination, we have to balance between contamination as also the effect of chlorine, because about the standard already choose or already assessed by WHO, that is safe for the rest of my life according to the life's expectancy. And surprising that we are today facing also other degradation about the air contamination. Yes, thank you. Related to the decreasing of life expectancy. So that's the importance of WAS here in for the protection of our public health. So it's very related as well to SDG 3. And finally, I propose only 3 things about how to overcome the problem, the challenge we found. And then, so the 5 major challenges can be elaborated in detail to quantify how much the fraction of the we call it challenges will influence the outcome of WAS. And the secondly, since the main value to achieve the SDGs target is concerning the compliance with drinking water standard and septic treatment, the implementation of appropriate water safety plans and drinking water surveillance is urgently needed. And finally, the improvement of data monitoring system will be part of the above implementation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Sri Irianti, for the presentation. Indeed, water is the very basic need of human beings. And Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. So everything living in this world is made of water. So water is the very essential and the fundamental basic needs of human being. Therefore, we have to be careful and be caring of the water. But surprisingly, yang anehnya adalah kita ini hidup di tengah-tengah lautan air. Ya, hujan tiap hari, disekelilingi oleh laut, tapi kita punya masalah dengan air, seperti mana yang tadi dipresentasikan oleh Profesor Irianti. Next, we are moving to the next presentation by our young scholar, Mohammad Ph.D, who is also an expert, as mentioned by Professor Sri Irianti, on water. And his topic of presentation is regulation, implementation, and the potential role of Islamic norms in river restoration in Indonesia. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorables, Pak Rektor, Pak Kiai Haji Didin Hafidzuddin, Pak Ketua Yayasan. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be able to speak here about my passion, which is water. And as you quoted in your remarks, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ, which is probably part of the topic that I'm going to discuss today. Next slide, please. So if we look at the picture, we are pretty much in a water stress condition. So Java is in the red. So these are during dry season, we have water stress. So a lot of scarcity in the island of Java, the red ones. If nothing changes by 2045, the majority of the GDP, our gross domestic product, will be produced is in the highly stressed basins in the Java and Bali area. Next slide. So we look at here, we have climate change and flooding, also in Bogor. So the last 10 years, the occurrences is increasing. More than 3/4 of Indonesia disasters are meteorological or hydrological. More than 3/4. We have earthquakes, we have everything else, but more than 3/4 are hydrometeorological disasters. Flooding, landslide in Bogor, everywhere. So we experience it in our daily life. More than 100 million Indonesians are exposed to flood risk. You have experienced flood, although Bogor is quite high up actually compared to Jakarta, but we have floods too in Bogor. 325 cities and districts are classified as high risk in Indonesia. From 2002 to 2015, Indonesia suffered average damage of 367 million annually due to flooding. An analysis on 92 cities indicates that the number of reported floods in these cities are almost tripled from 50 to 146. It's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. We'll have more droughts and we'll have more floods because of climate change. So it's not going to get better, I'm sorry. Next slide, yeah. And our river is heavily polluted. 53% of Indonesia's river is heavily polluted. Two of the world's most dirtiest river in the world is located in Indonesia. Citarum used to be the first, and then Ciliwung is the second. So you can see here, dirty river everywhere. And you can see there, I think Prof. Sri speaks about 70% of household drinking water sources are contaminated by fecal waste, fecal feces. It's when you go to the toilet and you drop something, that's feces. And it's in 70% of Indonesian household population. Next slide. Now, my talk today is about river restoration. Because this is about achieving SD targets 6.5 and 6.6. In the European Union, the law says that they have to attain good water quality. So what do we mean by good water quality? Is we have to enhance the status of the aquatic ecosystem by looking at aquatic flora, benthic invertebrate and fauna. So if there used to be ikan lele in the river, it should be there. It have to be, if there are bacteria or germs or small creatures or fauna in the river, then it has to be restored to its normal ecological function. That's in the European Union. And previous slide still. Oops, sorry. Previous slide. Okay, so the driver there is the EU Framework Directive. Hence, the purpose of the law is not anthropocentric. Anthropocentric is human-centric. We use the environment for our benefit. But ecocentric, which is natural ecosystem, to restore the law, to restore the natural ecosystem, including the river. Next slide. Now, so this is what the mayor said this morning, quick win, quick fix, or the low-hanging fruit. People are straining up the channels to build things here, straining up. Of course, then when it floods, your house will be flooded if you're living next to the floodplains. It's called the gray infrastructural approach. You use channelization of the river. God creates the river in meander. It has a purpose. This is not a law. It is for slowing down the runoff and the speed of the river, to provide the benefits for the flora and fauna. As you can see, this is in Scotland. The river is embanked, but the river claims itself. You know, this is my territory. What are you doing here? So it floods the plains, although it's already embanked. Next slide. So this is an example in Singapore. This is the different river, but used to be they channelized the river, so the people run very quickly downwards, downstream in Jakarta. If they are channelizing the river here, Jakarta can get flooded because It is very quickly the speed of the river, and it disconnects the river from the surroundings. But now in Singapore, they remove the barriers, they naturalize the river. So this is, when it floods, the water can come here, there. Because that's the Sunatullah. This is not Sunatullah. This is human-made. That's the Sunatullah, the meander. And it has, I'm not an expert in geohydrology, but it has certain ratio and mathematical calculation. Next slide. This is in the Dutch. They are making more room for the river because they no longer can control using engineering, high what we call sort of gray engineering. Even the Dutch is the masters of the water. They have built a lot of dams. They can no longer control, so they have to provide more room for the river. Next slide. And this is in Scotland. So if you embank, the floodplain is disconnected from the surroundings. And so it creates problems downstream. It can create floodings downstream. So in Scotland, they are slowing the flow, returning the river into its normal ecological function. Next slide. Now, what about in Indonesia? So this is a legal analysis because I'm a lawyer on training, and I look at the regulation. Unlike in the European Union, there is no legal obligation, both of conduct or of result, to restore river to its natural state under existing legal framework. So the legal framework in Indonesia is anthropocentric still, not ecocentric. For example, we look at only class 1 for drinking water. That's human purpose. Next slide. Now this is in Jakarta. There's nothing political here. It's simply because everything is political these days, right? No, I've shown you the practice in other countries and in the world. The trend is not to naturalize the river and the ecosystem. So this is what they attempt. It's the legal framework is the governor regulation. The clauses can be better improved, but this is closer to the EU's approach of functioning ecosystem. And it's a departure from the national legal framework. It's quite different what's happening in Jakarta. Next slide. Now this is the common way of handling river through normalization. But it's very much gray infrastructure. They use banking, channelization, and dredging rather than nature-based solution. Next slide. Now, going back to the Islamic norm and quite related to the verse quoted earlier in the presentation. According to Ahmad, water is considered as hukuk Allah. I'm not yet an expert in Islamic water law, so I just see from English sources. I have to learn from Pak Rector and from Mr. Chairman how to speak Arabic. I speak English and German, but not yet Arabic. But I'm looking at it now. So, hukuk Allah is as opposed to hukuk al-ibad, as opposed to the right of humankind. The rights of Allah cannot be remitted, pardoned, relaxed, or compromised. The laws for maintaining water quality are not premised on property law or tort. They are ecocentric. So, of course, the ecocentrism here has the theocentric above. But it is quite sophisticated because this has been, the Islamic is quite a long time ago. So if you can find it, the nature has right. According to the principle, nature has right. So it's not human relation, it's the rights of God. So if you pollute the river, and this is according to Caponera, the gift of water entails a religious obligation deriving from the very nature of water, which is Surat Al-Anbiya, as mentioned earlier. So if you pollute the river, you are violating the rights of Allah. Why? Why are you violating that Allah? Because this is the materials for life. No water, no life. God stated in the Quran. So it is quite profound, the message. So now I understand that in trying to understand religion, we need knowledge. No, now I understand. Next slide. So this is from Harim. I did not quote the hadith, but it's quite established in the Islamic water law. The term Harim means inviolable zones. So spring wells have, like in Arabia, the river, have protected zones. Cannot enter the protected zones. It's called the Harim. Harim is mainly associated with water courses and rivers, but also applicable to land. So there is a buffer zone surrounding water body within which human activities are prohibited. They must remain undeveloped. So under Islamic law, Islamic water law, we know that there is a Harim, and the banks of the river, the flood, some of the parts must remain undeveloped. You cannot build infrastructure there. Next slide. So this is from the Ottoman Code. We have a colleague professor from Turkey, which is, I believe this is Arabic, Ottoman Turkish. The Masal, which codifies the Sharia in the Ottoman Empire, also regulates the Harim. It states that, for example, 1/2 the breadth of the river is equal to the breadth of the whole river. So at least you have to empty half of the side and half of the other side, according to the laws of the Ottoman Empire. Next slide. So to conclude, the world is moving toward river restoration, restoring to its normal ecological function. Indonesia is not yet there. There is an attempt in Jakarta, but it's quite difficult because we have to land acquisition, expensive to acquire land, and also it's quite contradictory with the national policy. Under Islamic law, water is considered the rights of God, in which officials have little discretion. The requirements in the European is quite concordant with Islamic law. So the EU seems to be quite the same with Islamic law because of ecological function, but not in our legal system. Next slide. So this is my recommendation. In order to achieve SDG Target 6.6, to protect and to restore water-related ecosystems, regulatory and institutional framework must be in place. This would require water law and environmental law to be reformed so that it contains an obligation to conduct to protect rivers and floodplains that are still natural conditions and gradually restore developed floodplains. So naturalisasi must be embedded in the national legal framework. That's my academic stance, beyond politics. Okay. Islamic water law principle could have 3 potential roles. First is to provide insight for water and environmental law reform, because the verse is also quoted by the justices at the constitutional decision regarding water law. So it provides insight. Second, to motivate behavioral change. And the third is to increase demand side for government responsiveness towards healthy and clean water. Last slide. Now this is something to ponder. Yeah, this is a question to all of us. We are the world's largest Muslim population in a country. We have been taught about najis since childhood, and Islamic injunctions regarding water conservation is very strong. But why is our river dirty and our water sources 70% contaminated with feces? We should be the cleanest nation on earth. So I have several hypotheses which we can discuss in the discussion. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Mofa, inshallah, for the presentation. Indeed, it's very, very enlightening for us, and from the 2 speakers on water, we can have a big picture about the problem of water in Indonesia. But kelihatannya berulang kali Dr. Mofa mengatakan ini tidak politikal. Saya ragu kalau ini tidak politik, karena suaranya mirip dengan suara gubernur yang baru saja resign ini. Ya, insyaallah mudah-mudahan something will happen, and we just pray for Allah Subhanahu wa Taala so what He proposed will be implemented in the future for the betterment of our life, inshallah. Of course, due to the limited time that we have, so we have to postpone this session. And before we disperse this session, I would like to thank to all the guest speakers, the professors, for the very enlightening, beautiful presentations that give us a big picture about the problem of SDGs, and this shows that we Muslims are very concerned with the SDGs. As I said in the earlier early notes of my open remarks, that we Muslims should have a role, should play our role in defining, conceptualizing these SDGs, because we are sure, though there are though these 17 goals of SDGs are in line and comfortable with Islamic principles, especially with the maqasid al-Sharia, objective of Sharia, yet we have to conceptualize it in accordance with our worldview, because those people, they have their own worldview about the human beings, about the nature and all these kind of things, that of course it will have the impact on the conceptualizing these SDGs. So by this presentation, I think we hope that in the next agenda we can redefine and reconceptualize these SDGs, and we can present it to the world. This is the concluding remarks. We hope that it will be beneficial for all of us. And once again, thank you very much, professors. And for this, we close the session by reciting Subhanakallah bihamdik, Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What an excellent presentation from our plenary speakers. And we would like to ask you to stay on the stage, because we would like to present the ceremonial gift to you for sharing your expertise in the session. And to present the ceremonial gift, kindly be invited the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Dr. Maimuna Sadia. Ladies and gentlemen, let's once again give a big round of applause for our presenters and moderators for this session. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will move on. Now we will move to the next agenda, we will hold a virtual presentation from our guest speakers. The first is Prof. M. Afzal Wani, the Vice Chairman, Institute of Objective Studies, India. The second, Prof.Dr. Dawood Abdulmalek Yahya Al-Hidabi. And then Professor of Education, IIUM-Malaysia, the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors, UST-Yemen. The third, Dr. Saiku Kausu Gesama, Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commissions of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, this session will be led by our moderator, Mr. Nirwan Safrin. For Mr. Nirwan Safrin, the time is given.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's begin the second session by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This session will be fully online, so I'm not sure whether all the speakers are already on standby. Please,
yes.
The committee, please let us know.
Yes, yes. Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam.
Prof. Afzal, are you now in line?
Yes.
Oh, all right, thank you. Okay. Dear professors, doctors, participants of the International Conference on Applied and Social Sciences, we are now moving to the second agenda, which will be presentations from our speakers from various countries. We have Professor Mohammad Afzal Wani, the Vice Chairman, Institute of Objective Studies in India. And we have also Professor Dr. Dawood Abdulmalek Yahya Al-Hidabi, Professor of Education, International Islamic University, Malaysia, who is also a Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors. And also we have Dr. Saiku Kausu Gesama, who is the Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission of the Gambia. So we are very pleased and honored to have all the professors to be present at this international conference. Without further delay, because the time is so limited, we would like to call upon Professor Mohammad Afzal Wani, the Vice Chairman of Objective Studies in India, to present his thought and opinions on the title Challenges and Opportunities in Achieving SDGs Target from Islamic Perspective. The time is limited for 15 minutes. فليتفضل مشكورا Professor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dear friends, I would first like to put the theme in context. I believe that whenever there is an agenda or a task to be performed, what it needs initially is the correct line of thinking, and the person himself is convinced, and there is behind a commitment. So when we look to these things, without which we cannot have the best of the performances, we should try to put in context the sustainable development goals in Islamic context, to the extent that when we find that where from the things have come, did they come all of a sudden, or there is a context to it? And when we find that the context is accurate, correct, convincing, and it is conforming with our spirit, we'll perform more. So I would like to say that after giving a look to the sustainable development goals, anybody, these 17 goals set, all right, give them a look. And then I would like to say that get back to the days of Prophet Mohammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that once the revelations came, what was the state of things at that time? As today we have framed this agenda, but at that time we ourselves find that today we look to poverty, hunger, education, equality, other things and other things. There was limitless ignorance then. Society was altogether, as regards the thought, polluted. As regards individual arrogance that hampers any kind of development, and that brings in this impoverishment, that brings in exploitation, and that attacks the system of justice, and that defeats the different sections of the society to be equal and equitably treated by others. All these things we found it then. And then we found the something like dominant positions, they were being exploited. And like that, and absence of the world view was at that time. So once we look to that thing, then as regards the revelation came in Islamic context, that was, how to make it sustainable, how to have a program, how to have a plan. At that time, please go to the third slide, and there, please go to the third slide. Here I was saying that you can see that as today we find in the world various kinds of problems, different situations, and that makes us plan for something to fight that. And this was the situation when the Quran was to be revealed. There were all these kinds of, social, economic, political, psychological, and judicial issues and problems which the society was facing. These kinds of things which had become a perennial affair, they were to be thought about. And then in such a situation, there was need for a vision which could work not only at the local level, but that could work at the global level to guide the humanity, and then guide the action by the humanity, guide the thought process of the humanity, and then guide them in benchmarking the things where we have to go, and what should be the shape of the society, and what should be the feelings of the people and action of the people for which they would be proud. Please go to the next slide. And that's how to overcome all those issues, all those problems, which ranged from environment to justice to gender to political issues and social issues. There came then the message from Almighty, and the message was وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Now please go to the next slide. There you will find that Allah says that we have honored the children of Adam, the human beings. We carry them on the land and the sea, and have made provision of good things for them, and have preferred them above many of those whom we created with a marked preferment. So here is the message, that here is where the mindset has to be reshaped and where the things have to be put in right context. Then the human potential and human energy that has to be used to its fullest in that direction. That's how this can be a global plan, very successful, where every individual can be a part of it. And that basic thing is that what honor the Creator has given to human being are the global plans and programs in the same direction. Are they with the same kind of potential? Are they being followed with same kind of programming? That has to be seen. And wherever any of the planning and programming is not in conformity with respect for the human beings, that definitely wants to be changed. And where there is any kind of laxity in following that goal, that, that has to be activated. Inertia has to go, acceleration has to come. And that's what the wish of the Almighty Allah is. And there he says, I have put everything in your hands. More so in case of Indonesia, a blessed nation and country, where land and sea, they go together. We carry them on the land and the sea. I believe that can emerge as one of the best of the nations on this planet, with this vigor, deriving this movement from this provision, this verse from the Holy Quran. And then they should after that read the Sustainable Development Goals, what they demand from us, what they expect from us. That's how I'm trying to put it in that context. And while giving a look to the things which Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is without any example, it goes that in his effort, if I underline few of the things, that he is the person, or it's the Quran, which gives sanctity of life and property be maintained in all situations. When we talk of hunger, when we talk of poverty, when we talk of peace, when we talk of justice, and when we talk of environment, it's basically the sanctity of life and property that has to be met. No person has a right to do anything which can take away the life or which can result into any kind of bloodshed, which can in any way result into the loss of blood or the fall of any human being that way. That's very important. And you can see the goals now comprehensive, and these were established well, and also in Khutbah Hajjatul Wida, these things were more emphasized. That was the program which was being given then. And then treat others justly and keep the trust of people and establish equality and justice. You can see, please read the Sustainable Development Goals and read this. And no usury, as we are advancing trade, we are advancing, business, and then at the same time, we have to see that probably if we get the concept of usury is so much there, that it is affecting in a big way the whole of the business system of the world. And when we talk of removal of poverty, then in the system of usury, the poverty cannot be removed at all. The poverty shall sustain rather than the business shall sustain, rather than the welfare shall sustain. Though in this limited time, I'm just giving the indicators that how we are going to follow the Sustainable Development Goals, and then we are not looking back to what Islam has said, what Prophet said. So these have to be kept always in context, and we have to develop programs for implementation of Sustainable Development Goals in this context, keeping in view these kinds of principles. Beware of wrongful behavior and devilish motivations. As just few minutes back, when one of the respected speakers was talking of lifestyle, see, without having a congenial lifestyle and the lifestyle which suits the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, we are not sincere then about it, and we cannot attain the goals. So lifestyles will have to be put in right context, and I believe that if Uswa Hasana, when we talk of it, I think that's the ideal behavior which can help in attaining the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's about water, whether it's about air, whether it's about the system of trade and business, whether it is about politics or any other thing, that becomes very important. And that lifestyle is imperative. It is compulsory. It is indispensable to do those things. And then even we have one of the agendas about gender. You cannot achieve that. And the most important, when we take them collectively, can we attain the Sustainable Development Goals without creating universal brotherhood, without respecting the dignity of the human being, and without developing a culture of equality? Can we do that? That's a big question. then there is state responsibility. The state comes into existence in order to work for the people, in order to work for the people who are living in that particular territory. So state has the responsibilities, the duties, and it's not merely the question of power. The power a state is having is not to enjoy any kind of arrogance. The power of the state is there to use everything at its command for the people, for giving respect to the people, for giving socially and otherwise the best of the life to the people. Please go to the next slide. So when we look to this, these sustainable development goals, they have a history. When Islam gave that kind of agenda to humanity, we found after another 600 years, there came something like Magna Carta, which is being too much talked about. I'm not going to discuss these things, but these are the landmarks in human history which were concerning the human beings, which were concerning the people. And then we can talk of English Bill of Rights. You can have a reading of them, French Revolution, and French adoption of the rights of the man. You can see that American Bill of Rights, and then so many. And then ultimately still, even if that was done, still we had the world wars. The world wars thrashed the mind of the human beings, that at that civilized stage of human history, how could there be such a kind of devastation? And that's how, after that, there came into existence the United Nations through the UN Charter. And when we look to the UN Charter, it is something which is reflective of the Quranic message that we should not have any kind of wars. We should have peace. We should have business. We should have trade. We should have social life. We should have good culture. We should have better lifestyle. We should have better levels of this life given to the human beings. Better level of education, better level of health, better other kinds of processes. So UN Charter brought into existence the United Nations, and then this United Nations is giving us from time to time different kinds of these agenda, and in form of different instruments, and they have only that one purpose, where the Quran said that you have to respect, I respect the human being, I have given honor to the human being, and you have to give honor to the human being. And accordingly, then the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that has to be followed. Without that, you cannot talk of this sustainable development goals. If we do not associate every human being equitably with the process of this implementation and action on sustainable development goals, we cannot achieve it. You will leave somebody out of it, and that will be unjust, that will be unfair. You will leave somebody illiterate, that again will defeat the sustainable development goals. You will not attend the health issues of somebody, still you will defeat the kinds of, the agenda. And then at the same time, we have to look comprehensively to all these sustainable development goals and the human rights together. We can have them better understand, and then at the back, especially for countries like Indonesia and some others, if there is put in the spirit with which Quran and Prophet Mohammed has put them, they will have more energy, more potential, more focus, and they will be more convinced about the action plans for developing the sustainable development goals. That's how I am saying it must be looked to, that the sustainable development goals are not just something which came into 2015.
Professor Afzal, due to the limited time, can we have your concluding remark, Props?
Okay, please go to the next slide. I will complete it.
All right.
Please. Okay.
2 minutes left.
Okay, then I would take you to 1991 when this more open world was created, and you can see that. And please go to the next slide. And then there came the Millennium Goals to eradicate poverty, hunger, they give education, empower women, child mortality to be reduced, and health and other things. And this went up to 2015. And after 2015, we have now these goals. Please go to the other slide as you have with it. And then I want to look to one important thing. That's role of the government. I already said they have to, create social peace, cultural sensitivities they have to address. Literacy rate has to be increased, and protection of children has to be there, and security of food has to be made very ensured, and political participation becomes very important. And I shall end up with the last one. That's the role of the universities. I think the universities have to get to this agenda, and they have to analyze the things, and then they have to create the courses, because it's not necessary to adhere to anything which has been traditionally there. No, you have to have the courses, and even if there are fundamental courses which you cannot alter, but add-on courses you have to give to the students at different levels, so that they create a mindset which in case of Indonesia will be very much ingrained and oriented to the teachings of the Quran and Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and at the same time they will have that global kind of reach where they can find themselves better, and they should come up better that way. So universities will have to get to that kind of agenda, and they will have to have different kinds of experiential learnings, and then accreditation has to be there for that purpose, that where we have reached, and that's how this you can see that in case of how the Indonesia as regards sustainable development goals, it can improve its image, that they will have to give confidence to all the citizens of the country. In Indonesia especially, I would say, incentivize the Indonesian citizen with the Islamic kind of background, that you have a responsibility, kuntum khaira ummatin, that you are the best, you have to deliver the best. And that's how the culture of quality literacy has to be developed there, and they have to eradicate corruption at the gross level. Let it be there. We have to trust and believe in our faith, and it can be eradicated. That will have the best. And then Indonesia can be the leader of peace and green diplomacy, if I'll call it. And SGD kind of diplomacy, they can develop it with more and more kinds of efforts. And I would say, I'll lastly refer to the Indonesian literature. There are many books in Indonesian language about cultures, about different other kinds of philosophies, persons. I would say they should be translated as one of the agenda for implementation of sustainable development goals, so that the people know their literature, their culture, their philosophy, and there are many good things in it, which along with the Quranic and Hadith knowledge can empower the ordinary citizen of Indonesia to become the best of the ambassador of his faith, as well as of the SDGs. And I think if there is no time, then with these words, I wish the best to the conference. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Wassalam.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Professor. Institute of Objective Studies is one of the NGOs which have a concern of global issues, and we have at least 3 times to collaborate with the IOS in holding a conference or seminars, and this is the 3rd time where we collaborate with the Institute of Objective Studies, and we hope that in the future we can have another conference, seminar, or whatever that can be beneficial for the Ummah and for the community at large. Thank you again, Professor Afzal, for your presentation. And inshallah, we will see again. And next speaker would be Professor Dawood Abdulmalek from International Islamic University, Malaysia. Professor Dawood is already standby and online, and the topic to be presented is human needs models and Islamic perspective. The time is yours, Professor. 15 minutes, inshallah.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Do you hear me? Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very clearly.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. I would like just to start with, which is the benchmark, SDG or Islam? If we say SDG, let's start discussing this SDG. But if we are saying the benchmark is Islam, then we have to criticize and offer critique for SDG and provide the alternative. Second thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَتَسْتَبْدِلُونَ الَّذِي هُوَ أَدْنَى بِالَّذِي هُوَ خَيْرٌ. Would you exchange better for worse? SDG is man-made and mostly materialistic and atheistic, and also to some extent agnostic. The second thing is that we are different from the Western thinking and philosophies in terms of ultimate goals, in terms of assumptions, and in terms of motivation. So I think let me first say why we focus on insan needs. Human needs, I'm talking about insan, with the social self rather than the individualistic self, where SDG is emphasizing. In order to conceptualize development, we have to conceptualize insan needs. And insan needs outlined in the Quran very clearly, and there is no need now at this particular moment to discuss what are the needs mentioned in the Quran on the basis of the concept of insan or human beings. Clarity of needs, conceptualizing of needs are very, very important, because it will tell us what are the priorities areas for development. And when we say about the priority areas, we are talking about what is constant, which never change, related to ultimate goals, spiritual side, ethical side, family side. SDG is talking about gender, about dismantling the structure and the fabric of our families. And we are talking about SDG. We have to rethink, we have to make takhliya, cleansing our conceptualization from the materialistic thinking to put a balanced, holistic, material as well as spiritual side. So, the only one who knows about the needs is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. He's the only one who knows about the nature of insan, because he is the creator. And we have to learn from revelation as well as from the acquired knowledge. But the acquired knowledge, some of them are misled, misinterpreted, misconceptualized, and we have to distinguish between what is good and bad from this acquired knowledge based on the benchmark we have in Quran and Sunnah. So in order to conceptualize our human model, we have to know the Islamic teaching first, and then we have to filter whatever we get, whether from SDG or other needs conceptualized by the Western literature. As we know, before there was an academic attempt by Maslow hierarchy of needs. He started in 1943 and then 1954, he conceptualized the needs. But these needs, it was completely criticized even by Western literature. It is very biased culturally. It has no support empirically, and also focusing on the materialistic side of needs. and focusing on the individual, not the collective or society, where Islam is balancing the needs of society as well as the individuals. And he also emphasized self-actualization. So he's talking about the aspiration of the individual. Not Islam is looking for harmonious, peaceful, and good well-being for all people, for all society, for all humans, in fact. So it has, as I said, like conclusive empirical science. It is organized hierarchy, which proved to be wrong even by Western literature. And there is no need to criticize Maslow, because if you read the literature, you will know what are these critiques. Then we come with our SDG. Our SDG, which is made, as the Professor Afzal said, it's already discussed even before, but even when it was conceptualized politically by United Nations, they decided about 17. They think that it is a priority area for them, or 80% of the global people population, because only 20% are living in a better life physically or materially or economically per se. Now, SDG based on liberalism philosophy. SDG is not a balance. They forgot spiritual and ethical as well as even family and social fabric of society. They are suffering. They will never save themselves, even if they adopted this. Happiness, success, falah, najah, haya tayyiba, good life cannot be achieved by following and pursuing SDG. From my categorization of this SDG, they talk about the economic dimension, health dimension, educational dimension, environmental dimension. All of them are more or less repeating the material side of life. But what is the new proposed model of human needs? Our scholars, when they reviewed and systemically reviewed all Quran and Sunnah, they come up with the 5 maqasid. We cannot by any means say SDG is consistent with maqasid. Never and ever. How can we compare the research literature of Quran and Sunnah, come up with its 5 main goals or areas of needs, to something which is changeable? This 17 goals, SDG, some are mostly changeable. When they're talking about HIV or whatever, this is specific to time and place. We are talking about the overall goals and areas of needs, which bring success and happiness for human beings. So I tried to translate this maqasid into 5: the spiritual and ethical needs, education, technological and industrial needs, the family, social and society needs, health and environmental needs, and economic needs. Now, 2 of them, number 1 and number 3, are not there in SDG. They were not given the due attention. Second, even the last 3, they are integrated with the Islamic benchmark and standards as well. So it is, they all are interrelated, interdependent, and also connected in a holistic, in a balanced, integrated manner for the individual and family, as well as society and humanity. No need to discuss this, but that is the overall model I am proposing to you. It talks about the maqasid 5. One of them is the economy and wealth, religion and ethics, intellect and education, life and health, family and social dimension. That's the 5. Then it is related to individual, family, society, humanity. It is a global model because we derived it from what Allah said about insan in Quran and Sunnah. And then the further dimension is that there are 3 categories and levels of importance. Number 1 is the necessary needs, which is survival needs. Second, which is important to solve the challenges humanity is facing. And number 3 is the complementary needs. So that will help us, in fact, to develop our society. And I would like that our universities should include such kind of thinking in our curriculum and in our development of university curriculum. So there are unique characteristics for this model. Based on revelation, relate text to context, holistic, connecting life, short life to the real life in the hereafter. It is developing personality and social, collective, and individualism and collectivism. It's sensitive to time, place, and culture. So you can change what is survival in your country might be different from other country. What is important, what is complementary. Also, the model reflects the constant and changeable. It is universal. It is sensitive to particular context. It integrates material to spiritual. It shows the most important thing, that what we have taken for granted is there, the belief system, the ibadah, the khilafah, the tazkiyah, and so on. Also, it gives us the overall aims of life, that seeking the pleasure of Allah, seeking for the reward from Allah, and motivating ourselves also from inside to serve and help others. They are not, in Islam, it is not related to psychology department, but it is an interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach when we discuss such kind of things. It connects the heart, the soul, the mind, and the behavior. It is a human model. It is implementable and realistic. It could be practiced and improve the well-being of life, a balanced life, not material life only. So the hierarchy lies within each broad area of needs in terms of priorities. Muslim societies and policymakers have to learn from this and develop their own strategic plan so that they can create balance. Also, I hope that it will be included, such kind of thinking and conceptualization in the curriculum of the university. And also we have to conduct a lot of research in order to develop the model and other also practices which is relevant to it. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Rahmatullah wa barakatuh. This is indeed very powerful presentation, Professor Dawood. ما شاء الله متحمس جدا.
جزاك الله خير.
والنقاط التي ألقيتها إن شاء الله هذه قراءة نقدية على أهداف التنمية المستدامة. أليس كذلك؟ لأن أنا قدمت نموذج جديد لما يسمى ب human needs, Al-Hidabi needs. This is indeed a very great presentation because Professor Dawood tries to critically look at the SDGs from the Islamic perspective, and at the same time he proposed a new what he called as human needs in replacing the what is called SDGs. And we hope the presentation will give us another view and another picture of the SDGs from Islamic perspective, and we hope we can develop this perspective further and to be presented to the world community, inshallah. Again, thank you very much, Professor Dawood, for your presentation. And next session is Dr. Shaykhu from Gambia. I hope that he is already online because we just chatting him, and I don't know whether he is already online or not. Is he? Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Shaykhu. Dr. Shaykhu is an alumni of International Islamic University. My junior, I think, Professor Dr. Shaykhu, and now he is one of the what you call this in charge of human rights in his own country in Gambia. And the topic that he is going to present at the present is human rights and Islamic perspective. Due to the limited time, now the time is given to Dr. Shaykhu. فليتفضل مشكورا. تفضل يا أخي. Because I think the difference time between us, between Indonesia and Gambia is 7 hours. So now is probably still 3:30 or 4, I think. Tafadhal ya akhi. Please unmute your what do you call this? Your device. Please unmute. All right. Dr. Syekhu. Dr. Syekhu, can you hear me? Dr. Syekhu? Dr. Syekhu? Hello, doctor. Can Waalaikumsalam. The time is yours now. Can you unmute by yourself now? Your device. We are waiting for your presentation now. We are waiting for your presentation. You can use the phone. Yeah, you can use the phone also. Oh, I see. I see. All right. Now you can use also your phone. Yeah. Can you now? All right. All right. Okay, we are waiting for you now. Can you hear us now? Can you hear now? We can see you clearly on the screen. We can see you clearly on the screen now, but we can hear anything from you. All right. All right. Dr. Syekhu? Halo? Dr. Syekhu? Halo? Ini udah masuk. Dr. Syekhu, can you hear us now? Can you see us on the screen? Belum lagi. Halo, Dr. Syekhu. Can you see us on the screen? Hello, we can't hear you. Can you? All right. Okay, can you join now? Yeah, you join again. You already out of the screen now? You join now. Alhamdulillah, the in the conference is attended, I think, by more than 100 participants on the screen. And also after this session, we have afternoon session or the parallel session, inshallah. Yeah, we are waiting. Dr. Sheikhu, can you hear us now? Dr. Sheikhu? Oh my God. Dr. Sheikhu? Come on. Apa masalahnya? Doctor, we can't hear you. Yes, can you just present your, can you just make your presentation through this phone?
Okay, let me do that then.
All right, then, yes, because we can't hear you through through the screen. You can see me, they can see me, right? Yeah, we can see you, but we can't hear you. But if you don't mind, can you please just present your paper on through this what call this phone? All right, thank you so much. All right, go ahead. You may start, Doctor. Oh. Chatting aja kalau bisa dia. Oh. Coba sebentar, kalau ini tadi sudah kita minta lewat teleponnya. Dr. Sheikhu? Yes. Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. You may continue your presentations. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good. Like I said, I begin by extending my salam to the chairman of the meeting and to all of you. It's a pleasure for me to address this conference. It came at a
Yes, Doctor. Go. You may continue. Please excuse me for a while. I would like to contact him to postpone and delay the presentation.
Hello. I would suggest if somebody is showing the slides. If
Hello.
somebody.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is Dr. Seku speaking. I was having problems. I don't know.
Yes, you are audible. You are audible. Please speak.
So can I make the presentation now?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, all right. Okay, good, good. All right, thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to address this conference, international conference, this morning. I'm speaking from the Gambia in West Africa. I'll be talking I'll be speaking on the topic common identical twins, linkage of sustainable development and human rights. And my presentation outline goes like this. Outline, I have abstract, what are human rights, some key principles of human rights.
Your camera, please,
state
Dr.
obligation.
Sehu. Your camera, please.
Yes.
You switch on your camera, please?
Start my video. Yes. Is
All
it
right.
on now? Yes. Okay, good. So I present the outline, abstract, and then you have what are human rights, some key principles of human rights, state obligation, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, International Covenant on Rights, so linkage between the Sustainable Development Goals and human rights, and conclusion. Basically, this paper argues that Sustainable Development Goals are anchored on universal instruments of human rights, particularly UN human rights instruments. In this, we are referring to Universal Declaration of Human Rights and International Covenant on Civil Political Rights and International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. So the SDGs have been crafted out of international instruments for the purpose of promoting human rights, for the purpose of promoting human development using human right-based approach. It must be said that the same principles apply to SDGs predecessor, International Development Plan, which is Millennium Development Goals, and this was within the period of 2000 to 2015. So this came to the fore of international development agenda amid discussion regarding poverty eradication and environmental degradation, resulting from the effects of climate change. Hence, the resulting international agenda of sustainable development goals becomes a comprehensive international agenda, deploying a human right-based approach to development in order to offer solutions to keep developmental challenges facing humanity across the world, particularly developing countries. So it's important to note that prior to the Millennium Development Goals, there were a lot of discussions about poverty, how developing countries need to develop, and also challenges of environmental degradation across the world. This led to various meetings, the famous one being the Earth Summit of 1990 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And, discussions emanating from that lead to a call for a concerted common approach to addressing environment. So therefore, it was not surprising that when Millennium Development Goals came, the focus was not only on addressing environmental issues, global environmental issues, but rather also poverty. So you can see how these agendas became intertwined. Now, the argument was that actually the SDGs was based on human rights. So when we say human rights, what are we talking about? So essentially, human rights refers to those entitlements that we have simply because we are born or we exist as human beings. These are entitlements or characteristics or rights that are accorded to human beings because they are human. So they are not charities, or they are not, how do I call it again? Benefits that are dished out to individuals by states at their pleasure. But these are universal and inherent and universal, convictions, universal rights that are inherent in all of us, and regardless of nationality, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, among others. So some of the key principles that underline human rights are universality and inalienability. This universal characteristic means that it's there for everybody, and you cannot choose and give it to others. So basically, it's universal, indivisible, and interdependent. I.e., the whole idea of human rights is that they are independent, interdependent. The rights are interdependent. The fulfillment of one right, is linked to another one. So it shows the comprehensive nature of the rights, that they are interdependent and you cannot divide them. Basically, another principle is equality and fundamental, i.e., it portrays the equal dimensions and that it should not be discriminatory. Another characteristic is participation and inclusion. It has you can and include others basically. So that in itself will go against the principles of human rights. The other principle is accountability and rule of law, i.e., states, individuals are accountable in terms of what they do, basically, in relation to human rights. State obligation. So members of the UN, United Nations, are expected to respect, protect and fulfill human rights at all times, because these are ideals that have been embedded in the Universal Declaration and the various international instruments that followed. You will recall that the whole agenda of human rights came to the fore as a result of the effects of World War II, which was very destructive in terms of human lives and destruction and all that. So when the declaration was signed in 1948, the whole essence was for states to respect, protect, and fulfill those rights across the world. So this in itself is relevant to SDGs, as we'll look at later. Subsequently, now 39% of the UN member states have national human rights institutions. When we say national human rights institutions, we are talking about institutions created in a state with the aim of promoting and protecting human rights. When we say national human rights institutions, these are concepts that have been, promoted by UN in order for states to create institutions that will be promoting and protecting human rights. I belong to one of those institutions, National Human Rights Institution. So we have 9% of the world of member states have this institution out of 79 out of 193 UN member states. So that translates to 39% basically. So it's showing the level of participation in this process. These NHRIs are expected to be independent bodies. They're independent of the executive, i.e. the president, the cabinet. They don't dictate to the NHRIs as to what to do. The NHRIs, they go according to international standards, largely influenced by the Paris Principles, which supports their operation internationally. So essentially, this is growing in states There are some states that have, but they are not independent. So they are normally graded as to the level where they are, level A, level B, you know. So basically, that shows the importance accorded to human rights as a very cardinal principle globally. This is supposed to be respected by all states, member states, by government, by institutions, and private entities, basically. So we have seen partnership developed between UN, United Nations Development Program, and UN Human Rights Office, and the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions. That's the one I just discussed. The National Human Rights Institutions, they created an alliance at the global level called GANRI, you know, in order to coordinate, you know, their work, basically. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This, for me, embodied the foundations of what is known today as SDGs. You know, if we look at this particular declaration, it sets out universal protection of human rights. All human rights are born, all human beings are born free, equal in dignity and rights. So, as I said, this was felt by international, by the so-called World War II, that created havoc in terms of loss of lives, destruction of property, leading to you know, emergence of international crimes. You know, as some of you would probably recall, the Nuremberg trials, where, you know, people who bore the greatest responsibility were tried. So it was these ideas that translated into contemporary ICC, Criminal Court, basically taking accountability at that level. Then we have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is a covenant that actually provided more detail to the Universal Declaration of Rights, but emphasizing more on civil and political rights. And then we also have the Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. This takes the dimension, you know, putting more significance to issues that probably are more, you know, relevant to sustainable development goals, essentially economic, social, and cultural rights. For example, enjoyment of all economic, social rights, equal opportunities for everybody, decent living, protection of labor laws, etc., etc. You know, and right to shelter, you know, right to food, education, etc., etc. So basically, these were the international human rights instruments that provided the foundation for sustainable development goals. And before sustainable development goals, Millennium Development Goals, as I have highlighted earlier on. So the objective of SDG is actually to fill the gap of MDGs. And the MDGs actually, they expired in 2015. So SDG started from 2015. And it calls for sustainable development by ending poverty and hunger. It has 17 integrated goals. These are the goals. Goal 1, no poverty, 0 hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work, economic growth. So by going through this, if you look at the list of the sustainable development goals, you go back to International Covenant on Economic and Social Rights and International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, you will find out that these goals are actually anchored on those rights to fulfill, basically. So this brings us to the link between SDGs and human rights. I have chosen about 3 articles from this right to show where the SDGs are actually located. So if you go to Article 12, for example, Article 12 of economic, social, and cultural rights. You will find this Article 12, the provision for reduction of stillbirth rate of infants' mortality and for the healthy development of child. So you see, this actually the goal 3, SDG goal 3, good health and well-being, is actually speaking to this particular particular right, which is in international covenant, under the international covenant on economic, social, and cultural rights. Okay, the following one you can see those highlighted in red. Actually trying to locate goal 11: sustainable cities, communities, clean water, sanitation, climate action, etc., etc. You can see life on land. So they are speaking to improvements of all aspects of environmental and industrial hygiene. So you go to Article 7 also. This particular portion states the state parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of just, favorable conditions of work, which ensure, in particular, remuneration, etc., etc. So in between, I put there SDG 8. SDG 8 talks about decent work and economic growth. So basically, right, with various rights, embedded